So my purpose is this life that I have now. I was only existing. I live every single day now where I was just dying every day. And that is my purpose. The bakery is just the icing on the cake at this point. There's more to come.
All right, we're live, everybody. Welcome to Friday Conversations. I'm excited. This is like a buzzing room. And I'm just like, I always get excited about Friday Conversations, but like Tamar, you're here. I've wanted this to happen for a while. And I'm very glad that Debbie and you connected and we got this going. So we'll get to that in a second. We are missing two of our key people, Rob and Zane. So I want to give a shout out to them wherever they are in the world. Florida, I believe, and also here in town, but just had other obligations. So we miss them, but super excited about everybody that's in the room. And I wanted to take a minute to just explain an aspect of why I love these conversations as a way of encouraging how we introduce ourselves. So what I like about these conversations is that it takes us in a direction that we weren't necessarily expecting. Takes something that I've been thinking about and that you've been thinking about and we've collectively been thinking about and brings it front and center. And so today's topic is what Debbie and Tamar are going to bring to us. But as we're introducing, I want you to just think about what's something lately that's just kind of been swirling in your head. And I was going to start with, this is what I've been thinking about. And I realized that in the preamble, I forgot what it was that I was going to share. So I'm John Biron. I sell real estate. And something that's been kind of percolating for me is this idea of us not being able to think about everything all at once. And specifically, there's things like, for instance, my hair, right? Like I almost never think about my hair. And then there's other people that think about their hair all the time. And so like, there's just like you interact with somebody and something that they're very interested in is something that you hadn't thought about maybe ever. And so there's just that kind of idea. So that's where my brain has been going. I sell real estate. I'd love to help people with that if they would like to. I'm going to go to my left and have this amazingly gorgeous, beautiful woman introduce herself.
I'm Melissa Biron, and I own Thrive Wellness, and I help others with their metabolic health and gut-brain health.
And my name is Ramirez Watson. I am the Associate Director for a Career Center at Eastern Washington University. And something I've been thinking about lately is the extent to which people they don't give themselves enough they don't give themselves enough grace in this world. They're going through a lot and giving themselves room to breathe and to give themselves forgiveness in that sense. So getting back to that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name's Steve Hicks with Thriving Body Holistic Fitness, and I help people over 30 get unstoppable energy and metabolism.
My name is Mark Luna. I'm with a loan officer with New American Funding, and I help people with their real estate financing needs.
Gonna say something you've been thinking about?
Oh,
Yeah, I missed that.
Oh.
I missed it.
It's not a requirement there. It's not a requirement. If you've got something that you're like, I want to share this, and it's got to be quick and concise because we got to keep these things going.
Okay.
I think we should start over.
Okay, we'll
Share that with
right
your
now,
turn,
and think about it. We'll come back around the table.
My name's Alec Gonzalez. I like to help salespeople and business owners find clarity and better results, make more money and do better at closing sales. I like to work with clergy and doing spiritual direction. I've been thinking a lot about something my wife said the other day. She's comes from the deaf community a little bit, does sign language. And she said to me one time, every deaf person is so incredibly unique. They're all different. And I really was thinking about that. And I'm really thinking a lot about how incredibly unique and genius every person is. And it's really amazing. That's my thought. Dave?
Excellent thought.
Yeah.
I really like it. Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Ribble from Standout Mastery, and what we do is we work with people to improve their communication, connection, and collaboration skills. And we do it in a variety of ways. I'm also the author of The Way of the Conscientious Connector. I'd love to talk to you about those kind of things. My thought is that I've often said that I would really like to be like Paz when I grow up.
I like that. I appreciate that, Dave. My name's Paz Rainbow. I own Rainbow Financial Protection. We write plans for individuals and families that will come through and pay you a bunch of tax-free cash if you ever get hurt or sick. Learn more at rainbowfinancialprotection.com. I've been thinking a lot about my website that I just built myself.
Nice.
So pretty excited about that. I've also been thinking a lot about, it's the end of Q1, my goals for Q2, and how I can streamline those goals, because in the past I've put so much on my plate and not accomplished my goals because I'm worrying about too many things at once. To your point, John. So simplifying my goals, something I've been thinking about quite a bit.
Awesome.
Hello, I'm Eric Smith with Core Care Partners. We partner with business leaders to just help them better care for their employees so that they can have the space to be able to lead their organizations. So we help with on-site relational care. It's like a third party, completely confidential, just relational support for mental, emotional care, just to be able to learn how we can come alongside them, encourage them so that they can show up and be the best version of themselves, and just be able to have a better impact, more productive, more engaged, and ultimately just have a healthy workplace culture.
Awesome. I'm Debbie Ramirez. I work with Champion Empire, and we help business owners who are stressed out, overwhelmed, and stuck because there are too many possible paths and ways to try to figure out to get to their goals. And pair them with a deep bench of experts who walk them through a customized plan so that they can live the life that they were created for. And I think the thing that's been going through my mind is how incredibly resourceful and resilient we are. We had a workshop this week that it was really fun having a couple people who were here out to. Jonathan came, Todd came, Eric was there. Trying to see if I missed anybody. But one of the things that stood out was just that as Jesse, our founder, was teaching on the 5E framework to build culture, we had a couple of business owners who jumped straight to some really awesome application. And it was not equipping their team with more education. It was going, what empowerment and encouragement do they need to figure out how to figure it out themselves? So there's like 5 layers to that answer. It was like a meta answer, but that's what's going on in my mind.
Love it.
I'm Tamar Powers. I'm the owner of the Club Bakery, and all my thoughts I'll get out when we're talking.
I love that. Perfect. Yep.
I'm Todd with Lump, LOMP, lots of moving parts. This is a patented AI program that allows buyers to be put in front of sellers while you're out golfing or enjoying your life, living your life. We are also today the sponsor of the food.
Yep.
Thank you.
I am Leonidas Biron, son of Melissa and Jonathan Biron. I am a social media manager. Thoughts are reserved right now, so.
Fair. So perfect. Awesome. Thank you all for just giving us that kind of insight into where you're at. I would almost love to spend a lot of time just kind of getting into like a meditative space, but like we really want to get to the topic. So I do want to thank Lump and Todd for providing the lunch today, as well as Dryfly for hosting us here. This is a really cool, fun thing, and you're making it happen. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
I also want to kind of give Leonidas a little bit of a hard time because he's reading the book Dune right now. And as we're getting ready for this, he keeps like comparing us, the Biron family, to the Atreides family. So if any of you have read the books, watched the movies, he's just like, yeah. So.
I mean, spoilers, don't.
Yeah. So, oh man, don't watch this episode if you want to read the book. So that's, I really want to minimize me and toss it over to you guys. I want to like start diving into all the things, but like I really want you to introduce like what is this topic? How did it come to be, and where are we going? So Debbie, I'll kick it over to you.
Well, excited to jump in. And first of all, thank you to Jonathan for pulling us all together. I don't think we take enough time to say thank you to Jonathan for coming up with this idea and making, like, jumping in, and the fact that we're all sitting around this table today or joining online is because Jonathan had an idea and was courageous enough to get out there and be like, this is a crazy idea. I've never seen this happen before. Let's do it. And so thank you for that. So today, really excited to jump in and to have Tamar here with us in our conversation. Unfortunately, she's not showing up on screen. It's right here next to me. Maybe I can catch the video to move over here. If it'll come up pretty soon. There we go. But really just kind of have felt privileged getting a chance to get to know Tamar over the last, month or two, I think. Getting a chance to go meet with her in her bakery, which is amazing. So Made with Love Bakery, if you haven't visited it, look it up. They do show up on Google My Business, and you can find them and go visit, just drop by. But in the course of the conversation, not only is it, everything you think of in a bakery, cute, intimate, community oriented. You see people who are dropping by as we're sitting chatting in the easy chairs. There's people dropping by, and Tamar's greeting them, saying hi. They're coming in for their favorite baked treats and whatnot. It is totally that community place. But there's a lot more going on behind it. And that's the fun part, has been getting to know Tamar and peeling back some of the layers on why she took it over in the first place. And then a lot of the vision and passion that she has for how do you take something that's a community bakery. It's a cool thing. It's something we need. It's kind of that old vestige of, kind of like the general store that everyone drops into and feels welcome and whatnot. But then how do you take that and put some of the power in her story, in her transformation behind it, and take it even farther with a lot of potential and ripple effects for the future. So with all of that, there is so much meaty stuff to dive into, not just with her story, but as a jumping off point for all of our story. And why are we doing what we're doing? And what happens if we really tap into the root of it, to why we're doing what we're doing, and figure that out. And then how everything around us can go boom in everyone else's lives around us for impact, for profit in our businesses, all the things. So with that, I wanted to start. I know oftentimes we kind of have a little topic and a little introduction. We jump into conversation, but I really wanted to give Tamar about 5 minutes just to start by sharing her story. And obviously that story could probably take like 2 or 3 hours. She kindly shortens it to probably like an hour if you sit down with her, maybe 20 minutes. And I highly encourage you to go do that and spend that time. But just a 5-minute version of telling us a little bit of where you've come from, where you are now, and some of the heart and soul behind why you do what you do.
Okay. Thank you guys for having me today. I really appreciate it. This is exciting, and I'm a little nervous. My heart rate just went up a little bit.
Doing her things.
Yeah. So my name's Tamar Powers, and I am the owner of Made with Love Bakery, 2023 West Dean Avenue. If you haven't visited, please come see me. So my story is it started off when, I think my earliest memory is when I was about 4. Started with just a lot of trauma and just drinking poisons under the sink to kind of like, I don't know, I guess take away the pain. And I learned that when I was in counseling after I got sober. I did drugs and alcohol from a very young age for a very long time. And I was 38 when I got sober. I didn't even know what sobriety was, really. In fact, I didn't. And I didn't know that people existed in life like this without drugs or alcohol. It was a way of life. It was a coping mechanism. I brought children into the world in my addiction and took them hostage. It was just a very unfair life for them. These are things that unfortunately happened in my life, but I'm not proud of it, but it's a part of my story. And so I found sobriety when I was 38 years old. There was a lot of things that culminated in that decision, me making that decision. We were going to lose our place. We were being evicted. There was, I was going to lose my son. It was just so many things. And I had gotten arrested. I was arrested for theft and drug paraphernalia, drugs on me. It was a mess. It was just a hot mess. And so all of that happened, and finally decided that it was just time for a change. My youngest son was 8 when I got sober. My oldest son was 12 when I got sober. They have different dads. And so Trace lived with me, my youngest, but my oldest didn't. So I had Trace with me the whole time that I was in my addiction. And then as I got sober, we moved to Spokane and we went to the UGM Women's Shelter, stayed there for a few weeks and ended up having to leave for conditions that were in the shelter at the time. It's gotten a lot better, but we ended up being homeless down by the river, camping in a tent. And the entire time though that I was getting we were homeless, I never missed a day of treatment because in my mind, I never missed a day of drinking, using drugs, or smoking cigarettes. So if I want to change my life, then why would I give up a day of learning how to do that? So I never missed a day of treatment. It never even entered my mind or occurred to me to go back and use again because I had made a decision and I was going to do it. And I had to end up trusting a lady from the shelter that I met at the shelter to watch Trace while I went to treatment, because even though they're a part of our addiction, they're not allowed as a part of our recovery in the treatment centers, which I find so crazy. So it would be nice to make some changes there.
Yeah.
But so I had to end up trusting this lady to watch Trace. Thankfully, she was amazing and we still keep in touch. But I did that for the first 3 months of my sobriety, never missed a day, and I was there faithfully. But it was really great because I could go to, these group counseling sessions that we had at the treatment centers, and I could share what we were going through and then kind of inspire other people. When I saw that I was inspiring people, it kept me going. So it was nice to be able to go and share. We stayed in the tent last night, this is what happened. It was really scary, but I'm here still. I'm here today. And then people would see that and they would get inspired, I was like, okay, cool, I can do it again.
Yeah.
So it was really great to have that belief in me. While they believed in me, I didn't have to worry about that. I could just do the work until I could believe in myself. And so that was a big part of it too. And then, I guess the rest is history as far as that goes. I'm here today, 11 years later. It'll be 11 years next month that I've got. So yeah. And then a year that I bought the bakery April 1st. So we are doing an April celebration, anniversary celebration, all in a month next month too. So very excited.
Great.
But yeah, so I ended up buying the bakery. So do you want me to go into that or?
Yeah, I'd love to hear just a little bit of taking that, and then how did you end up getting the bakery, and what's the connection? Like, how did your story feed into why you're doing what you're doing?
Okay, and I'm sorry if I'm going a little fast. I am.
No, it's perfect. You're good.
So I worked for the city for a couple of years at one point, and then while I was there, I had been trying to start my own business for the whole time. This whole 11 years, I've been trying to start my own business, throwing things at the wall to see what stuck. And when I worked for the city, it just wasn't the job for me, and it's great, but it just wasn't for me. And so it was kind of the catalyst for me starting my own dessert catering company. So Simply Cheesecake Catering. And I poured everything into it. I gave up my rental because my kids had, grown up and moved out. So I gave up my rental house, moved into my camper trailer, took all of my savings and everything I got back from the city and just poured it into my new business. And I had known Callie Johnson, the previous owner at Made with Love, from just going in there. And she had donated to a past organization that I used to be a part of. She had donated there. So I just knew her from going in. And I was trying to seek out every other person that was more successful than me, so I could find out how they did it, because that's what you should do. And so she was one of them, and I wanted what she had, and I wanted to know how she got it. So we had a 5-minute meeting, and that's all it took. That evening, I received an email from her that said, "I'm not advertising, but I've been wanting to sell the bakery for the last couple of years. Would you be interested?" I went, "You're kidding." That's insane. But it was the craziest feeling, because I'd never had anything like that in my life happen to me. So I wasn't overwhelmed. I wasn't underwhelmed. It was just organic, which I've never felt. And so we just kind of took it and saw where it went. We had some talks while I just continued on my venture with the catering company, thinking, well, if it works out, it does. If it doesn't, great. And I've also never had that feeling. I either get really excited and let down, or really let down and never excited. And so it was really a cool experience. And then eventually we just decided it worked out, that we did just an owner finance situation. She only knew me from coming in. I know she could just see it in me that I worked for this. I've worked really, really hard for this. There just was something there, and she trusted me with this. And I knew that if she was going to trust me, there was no way I was going to let her down or myself down. I'm a sure bet. I know that. And she could obviously see that too. So I ended up with the bakery, and it's just been going amazing. I've waited my whole life for an opportunity like this. Is why I got sober, to change the world, to change this. So
That is so cool. Thanks so much for sharing with us, Tamar. You know, there's a lot in that story.
Yeah.
And I think what I've loved most about getting to know Tamar is two things. What one thing I've loved? Well, actually, but one of them is that Tamar is the real deal. You know, you'll never talk with her and come off with some impression that she's putting up some kind of front. You know, she's an open book and just privileged to hear you share that with us. And the second thing with that is that she pours everything she has into anything that she does. And I think that's something that we kind of connected on, is, you know, I shared with Tamar, I have an addiction background as well. My addiction was eating disorders. So, you know, disordered relationship with food and body image. My process of getting, you know, I consider it getting clean and sober from that. There's a lot of work that goes into that. That is not a journey for the faint of heart. It's also not a journey for the faint of heart to be in it and to stay there, which is like that part that you finally hit bottom and you're like, it is so much work to stay here. Like I might as well do the work to get out, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's that part of seeing her pour herself into the bakery and into the future and into what she's building for others. You know, building this place for community. There's a lot more that she has in the future for others, but just sticking with this for now and what she's currently working on, pouring herself into this bakery in order to have something to give to others, in order to provide a space for others to come that's not judgmental, that's totally welcoming, that show up as your authentic self, and channeling that energy into it. And so I thought I'd open it up to discussion with the group, and I'd love to just hear what you're currently doing comes out of your story. And we'll dive deeper into that, but like there's so much there just to start with. Alec, kick us off.
I would like to go first.
Enthusiastically so.
I would like to go first.
We don't have an hour though, right?
Start a timer, Dave. Start a timer.
So I know most of you don't know, but I pastored a church in West Central for probably 3 blocks from your building and was aware of that building the whole time I was there. And had friends that were other pastors of other churches in West Central. And we would always talk about third spaces for the neighborhood to be together in a third space. And a lot of the ministry that we did, or I did, or our church did, was about giving space for people to come together. And I just want to say, thank you. I'm so excited about your bakery. I've been there but to hear your story and know it's in my neighborhood that I gave my life to, you know, for so many years and, you know, not unscathed, if I could say that. But I'm overwhelmed by the fact that you're there and the fact that you have the heart that you do and your story. And I just want to say, you know, seriously, thank you. Like, God bless you.
Thank you.
That is all.
A great start. I appreciate that.
That's interesting, isn't it? That other things around you are stories within themselves. And we don't know. You didn't know. And you didn't know. But it was all happening. It's all good. Even the name. You didn't have to come up with that, but it sure does fit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's just amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think there was a part in your story that you shared, kind of a mindset thing that I'm latched onto as you said it, but it was you were talking about how you never missed a day of like drug and alcohol use. And I think that's such an interesting way to frame that. Because we usually think about that as like stuff we want to avoid looking at. And there's, on the other side, you use that kind of as a source of strength for the treatment, right? To show up. If I could show up every day for the worst, why can't I show up every day for the best?
Right.
And I think there's something that, and it was similar to what Debbie said at the bottom. Like it's a lot of work to be your worst self as well. And I think that's something that I think a lot of us can probably see anytime we have self-doubt about the best efforts. We can kind of look at the worst that we've done and flip that frame, kind of see if I can do that, why not do this? And that question of why not, I think is pretty strong, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah. Can I reply?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because if you think about, well, this is how I think about it. I was a dang good addict and alcoholic. I smoked every single day. I woke up with a beer in my hand. I was really good at it. If you can take that focus and change it, change where you're putting it into changing your life. Yeah, I am unstoppable. I know this within myself. Everybody has that potential. Whether they light that fire or not is up to them. But some people just don't know that. They don't think of it that way. But think about how good you are in your addiction and change that focus. It's crazy.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a practical way to think about it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're good at staying in addiction, then you must have potential to get out.
You use that shovel to dig your hole.
Yeah.
Can't you climb out of that hole you've just dug? You know,
Yeah.
and you can do it. You sweat to get there. So,
Yeah, I think that's so freeing too, because I think there's so much emotion
yeah.
I mean, in life, but in addiction, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think it can make action and steps forward seem kind of not realistic.
Mhm.
But I think taking that and you know, breaking it down into, yeah, okay, I actually can do this.
Mhm.
Is pretty cool.
Yeah. Thanks.
I appreciate the certainty. It's just like, I know I can do this. I identify with that because, I mean, I was a smoker for 20 years and I smoked cigarettes, and I made attempts to quit, but it came to a point where I don't no longer identify as a smoker. And like, I haven't smoked a cigarette in, I don't know how many years. And I don't know how many years because it doesn't matter how many years it's been,
Yeah.
because it's the rest of my life.
So that topic is something that Tamar and I have talked about quite a bit.
Mhm.
And I love that you brought us there. And that really is the power of identity. That part where I think oftentimes when we think about addiction in any form, right? Whether that's just we're a little bit too addicted. I was telling Tamar, this is a little bit difficult posting on my Facebook thing because I get a little too addicted to it. So I have it deinstalled on my phone. Manually, it's a choice I make just so that I'm not sitting there like every second, like scrolling, right? So, but I think that part of like, oftentimes when we talk about any kind of addiction, what we're taught is we should identify first and foremost with our addiction, just so we remind ourselves never to go back there.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like there's organizations that have helped people
Sure.
a lot,
Yeah.
especially in the initial stages. The chance to go to a meeting can be a really important step in just acknowledging I have a problem that I need help. And I think, you know, having hit bottom in a couple of different areas in my life at a couple of different times, that ability to admit that and then to make a promise to myself, tomorrow I'm going to go to a meeting. Tomorrow I'm going to call that counselor that I've been like avoiding and telling like, I'm fine, I don't need them, or it's too embarrassing to call them, or whatever it is. There's something critical about that. And yet there also can be a culture that keeps us stuck, where we get stuck in the identity of I am whatever I used to do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then we take it on as our identity and we keep it as a reminder, which we should, right? Like we always should have that reminder somewhere of just like, this is the battle scars I have. This is some of my strength in my story. But do we need to stay stuck in that identity? And I love how you said, that was 20 years. I think it doesn't matter because it's a totally different life person right now.
Yeah.
That's so cool. You were starting to pipe up and it might have been something different. but I'd
Yeah,
love to hear
no, there's a few things. I mean, what we were talking about earlier, I kind of call it the fighter spirit a little bit. Is like some of the biggest fighters I know are the people who are battling addictions, because oftentimes the people around them don't always understand what that trial is, you know. And you remind me a lot of my mother as you were talking, because my mother she also battled addiction. And so I just kind of watched her life. It's like all the different ways that she would stay afloat was just like I was just in awe. Like, wow, you got a place. Wow. But for me, it was almost like, and this might be a question I will pose for both of you or anybody that wants to chime in, is for you might have been the bakery that kind of was that pivotal moment where you're like, you almost have like a focal point to say, this is like a moment where I'm gonna fight for this. was it something that kind of kept you sort of accountable to overcoming that a little bit? I don't know if that's part of it, maybe it was something else, but you know, for my mom, it was building a relationship with her kids again. And for her, that was her goal, and that was something that was like a focal point that gave her a fighting chance, something that she determined herself to sort of overcome. And I didn't know if that was something that there was something in your life that did that.
Well, to be quite honest with you, I never knew any other life.
Yeah.
And so when I discovered sobriety, it was like a kid in a candy store. I explained it to Debbie.
Wow.
I had never seen these things out here clear. I'd never had my eyes clear, my brain clear, anything. So when I discovered it, I wanted every part of it, as scary as it was. And it was scary. It's still scary to this day. I'm 40. I just turned 49 Wednesday. I'm 49 now. And I don't act like a 49-year-old necessarily, whatever they're supposed to act like.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
When I got sober at 38, I was stunted in my growth, my brain growth, because of the drugs and alcohol. And so I really, really had to do a hell of a lot of work on myself to change the way I spoke, the way I behaved, the way I dressed, because I hung out with people who were stuck in that same mindset, that same, you know, age group, whatever.
Trauma bond in a way.
It was.
Yeah.
So my purpose is this life that I have now. I was only existing. I live every single day now where I was just dying every day. And that is my purpose. The bakery is just the icing on the cake.
Right.
At this point, there's more to come, so much more to come, because I'm not dead. And it'll be a long time before that happens, but that's my purpose. It's just, it's everything. It's this life. It's this bright shining light that I have found. I was in such darkness for so long. So it's my kids. I wake up every day and because 11 years ago, there's no way they would have laughed me out the door getting life insurance. I have that today. I have life insurance now. I wouldn't have gotten that at 38 years old. I have it at 49 now. Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
So those are the things I live for. I wake up and I breathe and I have an apartment. I got all by myself, you know, and it's just an incredible place to be in my life. So that's my purpose. Yeah,
The allegory of the cave, remember that story? Yeah, the light was so blinding, but yet intriguing at the same time, and they had to find out what was on the other side. Yeah, love it.
It wasn't lost on me either that you said that the bakery was the icing on the cake.
That's a dad joke.
Unintentional dad joke, but yeah.
Perfect.
That is so awesome.
So there's this whole thing that's kind of coalescing for me that's fascinating, and I kind of want to introduce it and see how it lands. And I want to start by thanking you for just being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And Ramel, just you even sharing. One of the things that I just love about this group is that, like, I feel comfortable being kind of like a little bit vulnerable. I mean, like, yeah, that was scary stuff, or so like, thank you, and thank you everybody that creates this space. The thing that I'm intrigued by, Todd actually said this before we got started. He said, we're in the minority. And I said, maybe, because I had no idea what he was talking about. And half the time he says something, I'm like, okay. And what he was talking about is that we, whatever that we happens to be, if it's me personally, if it's we, my wife and I, we here at this table, we are in the minority because we're doing something new. We're doing something different. Now that new or different might be for us alone, but you coming out of the lifestyle that you grew up in, you coming out of this, all I ever knew was intoxication and sobriety was this new thing. You are in the minority. Now, are there a lot of other people that have had that experience? Sure. Like there's people that were not sober and are now sober, and even the other direction. But when we do that, when we're in the minority, it's very easy to feel very isolated, very lonely. And Melissa and I have had a lot of conversations about some of the things that we're pioneering in our family, in our just different dynamics that makes it feel isolated and lonely. And so that how we're in the minority. And something that you said, and I think you do this really well, and you sought it out, is that you need to find somebody that is doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
You need to find that other, like, that's why this works really well I've seen a lot of nods around the table, because it's like, this is us. We are in the minority because we're all doing different. Now, Alec is doing something completely different than me, but when we're doing it together, there's this like ecosystem of support that's like, okay, like me personally, I'm not coming out of intoxication into sobriety, but when I see what you've done, that's so inspiring for me for the new things that I'm stepping into that are like really hard and scary. And like, is this even going to be worth it? It's like, it's not the same thing, but it is, because it's like, oh man, I see what Todd is laboring to do with Lump. I see what Debbie is doing with Champion Empires. I could go around there and it's like, that is just like, it's encouraging. And it's like, I get to see that thing happen. So,
Yeah.
and then you pass it on to the next generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're all fighters in our own way, right?
Yeah.
And when a bunch of fighters are in the room, you kind of put the judgments to the side.
Yes.
And you focus on
Yeah.
what the important thing is how to help each other overcome that battle.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, to that piece.
I'll elaborate a minority. We always have in-depth conversations, either before or after, but for you and for us, we're very fortunate to have you part of this, because you're what I would call a pure entrepreneur. We're all entrepreneurs. That's why we're here. We're here to help other people, change lives, gravitate towards success. I was born into an entrepreneurial family, so I grew up that way. I was wired that way, okay? When I say pure entrepreneur, you came from dirt and raised yourself up, knowing that you had the qualities and the capabilities of creating success. It took time, but you've now succeeded, where the pure entrepreneur versus the entrepreneur that is born into that, or that has a bootstrap into their business support. You were none of that. So I acknowledge that. I'm in awe of your success, and that we are very fortunate to have you here. And we applaud your tenacity to succeed. So when I say the minority, we choose every Friday to be here. There is very little expectations of what we're trying to achieve on the Fridays that we're here during the conversation. But at the end of an hour, which is too short for Todd, we have achieved more than what we did the last Friday. And we hopefully have changed our lives, other people's lives, the people that are now tuning in to what's going on here, understand that there are trials and tribulations, but you can rise from the dirt and can be successful and can support or give into a group and become more of the majority than the minority. Okay, I'm done.
Well said, thank you.
I wanted to go back to, I think you said that it can be lonely doing something different. And I think that's very true. And I think finding freedom from really anything that's holding you back is a very lonely path, you know, but I think, yeah, that's the beauty is you find other people who also feel lonely because you're trying to swim upstream in a culture that is maybe encouraging the opposite of what you want to do, you know, so, but I think there's a lot of bravery in it because it's not easy. And, you know, you find, yeah, an even better community because of that, but I mean, I definitely relate, like, I don't have the same circumstances, but, you know, trying to live my life differently from other people and just, even just thinking outside of the box business wise, it can be hard because you're not just, I don't know, conforming. So, yeah, I think that's a cool concept.
I think that's really key. And I love that you brought that up because that was exactly where my mind was going, is that part of the power of association. And I think Tamar talked about that part of who I used to hang out with is going to keep me safe. And I really believe, you know, there's very few times in my life that I've ever cut somebody off. But there is part where we start to grow away from people, right? Or we start to really just by the factor of time, we have limited time. We start ending up just having less time to hang out in the environments that keep us hanging out. And I don't mean like never resting, you know, it's awesome spending time with family. But I think there is a part where I've really been thinking recently about that saying that everyone says, I was at a talk recently where the speaker was talking about that factor of who you are is the sum of the top 5 people who you spend time with, right? And if you've ever taken a leadership course, you've heard that phrase. Well, there's that part where I've really been thinking, who are my 5 people? Because I realized there's a lot of things where I'll slip into when it comes to entrepreneurship. I'll slip into a passive mindset. I'll kind of be like, I definitely want to get to that, but I really need to catch up on my show. I want to get to that, but gosh, it's hard to pick up that phone. That phone feels really heavy right now. It's like all the people I need to call on my list, right? To move this forward or to introduce them to this idea or ways we can collaborate or whatever, right? And I think I've literally sat there and made my list and gone, this year I need to spend more time with those specific people. And I think there's always the twofold, right? There's who is the association? You and Jonathan both mentioned this, Tamar. There's the twofold. One is, who am I surrounding myself with, who I start to think of as my peers, right? The people I'm literally spending time with, the people who I'm spending intentional time with around things that are challenging us, like this group, things that where we're challenging each other and we're really kind of, iron sharpening iron. And then I think there's the second part of, Jesse at Champion Empire mentioned something at a workshop the other day. He said, all of us need to, at the same time, be sheep to somebody and be a shepherd to others.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Who are you being a sheep to? Who are you coaching with? Who are you mentoring with? Who have you sought out? Who has fruit on the tree
Yeah.
in the type of life you want to live and the specific things you're trying to learn to get there? And then who are you reaching back and helping come forward who were you were? And I'd love to hear how that resonates with people and what comes to your mind for your personal life, not just a great idea, but your personal life or business.
I got something. So I really, really love some people who are not where I want to go. How do you navigate that?
It's an awesome question. I'm not going to answer that. I'm going to.
There's a Bob Proctor seminar that I really enjoy, and he tackled that one real quick. And his advice was, you don't have to get rid of the people you love. Obviously, that would be the wrong mistake. Some people you just don't invite as often, and you don't stay as long. And I think that's a great way to kind of set boundaries as well. Just think, this is all mine, and I'm not going to say it. There's some people in my life that there's some people that I
He isn't it?
no.
Well, at least that's out, Neil.
So there's someone in my life. We'll call them pause just for fun. But they're just kind of a Debbie Downer, right? There's always a problem. They're not a positive pause, okay? No, but I've got a person in my close circle there's always seems to be 4, 5, 6 problems. Maybe they're obsessed with problems. Maybe that's the way that they feel significant. But being around them for longer than 90 minutes, I start to hate life too. And so sometimes I'm a little slower to respond to text messages. I try to relegate things mostly to family events. And then I do know there's that 90-minute conversation point where it seems to be that sticking point. So it's just following that advice. Sometimes you just don't invite people around as often and you don't stay as long. It doesn't mean 0, but it also doesn't have to be close to 100 either.
I have 20, at least I'm thinking based on what you have brought to the table. I'm gonna say as high as 25% of my friends, I limit my exposure because they have elements in their life that either I don't agree with or it's not complementary to my existence. But I just limit my exposure. And it hurts because we want to be part of everyone, especially our friends, but if they behave or choose a certain type of lifestyle or just their overall behavior in public, I limit my exposure to them. And I'm 64, just turned 64 last week. Okay. So
Happy birthday to both of you. Jeez.
Yeah.
Pisces.
I'm Aries.
Okay.
Pisces. My birthday was last week and I'm 43.
I was on St. Patrick's Day.
I guess it's 2 weeks.
Anyway, so, back to what you brought to the conversation is that, and I was just saying, Nate, 25% is a big number. However, I still love them. I still want to be part of their life. I want them to be part of my life, but I have to be very selective. And, there's one in particular that it was like 3 times a week we would interface. And now I'm down to 1 time a week or once a week.
Right.
So, and I'm comfortable with that. And obviously they are too. As you grow older and wiser, it will become more comfortable to have that separation, and managed separation.
Yeah.
I hope that makes.
I will say, let me interrupt before anybody else says something. When you're older, it's easier to not care what's going the way it's going, because you decide, Remember, my sister wanted to get a tattoo, I'm over 50. What the
Whatever.
it's like, yeah, you get older and you realize that I have what I want, or I want what I want, and what you want is not part of that. And I wish you well. And the one thing that I was thinking, I don't know if I always do it, but I have a reputation for doing it, which is talking straightforward with people and like not afraid of confrontation, and just saying, look, how you're behaving and what you're living and I'm sorry, I'm looking at you, Dave. Not where I'm going. So, you either need to straighten your stuff out, or, we're going to have kind of a problem. So, and that can create new problems. But for me, who loves, confrontation.
Oh, jump it in. I love it. At first, when you come out, you were quiet. Now you're just jumping right in there. It's awesome. Mel had something to contribute, and then I do too. Yeah.
Christopher Todd and the other gentleman over here. What's your name, sir?
Alec. You can call me sir.
Sir. Do they know? Like, do they know?
Oh, 100%.
Okay, that was because that's part of it too. Is I think it's kind of a interesting balancing act between knowing when to step up for those companions, and then knowing when to protect yourself in that same respect, because it's like there might be that challenge that we have to say, hey, look, man, this behavior that you're exuding is kind of making me feel this way. And it kind of puts a little bit of the accountability on them to really think about, like, oh, this is how it's affecting people that are close to me. And it kind of gives them that impetus to maybe think about it. Not saying they'll change it, but it's just, puts that ball in their court. I notice a lot of people, they just cut them off and never really have the conversation. And so it's kind of all left on the lurch. Like, okay, they don't hang out with me much. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But there seems to be a lot of nebulous sort of communication that's not being had in the middle. All they see is sort of the reaction to it,
I love that, Mel. It's just kind of like having the care for somebody to have that conversation, because maybe it's that chance for them to go, I guess, yeah, you do care enough about me to have that conversation.
A level of understanding.
So sometimes that's not always possible, because in my life, and I won't say who it is, but well, family, sometimes you have to, that's you. Sometimes for my healing, I did try to reach out and talk to the people in my life that I needed to just take a break from while I heal, while I go to counseling, while I do this, because I grew up in toxicity. And so part of that toxicity is part of my family. And I did try to have the conversation, and unfortunately they weren't receptive to it. And so the only thing that I felt was healthy for me while I healed is to cut them off. And that doesn't mean forever, unless that's what they want, because they're not willing to hear me. And that's okay. I've had to come to terms with the fact that might be how it is. I'm okay with that, because I want to heal.
But you didn't cut them off. They cut themselves off.
Right. I just just chose to send a message and say, hey, I'm healing. I love you very, very much. But at this time in my life, I just want to get better. I just want to heal and go to counseling and deal with that toxicity. So maybe I can learn how to manage their toxicity if I'm around them.
There is so much good food for thought here, and I think we could like mine this one for a long time. I do want to transition us, because we've got about 12 minutes left, and I've got some really meaty stuff that I want to make sure that we kind of land on. So I think that that topic, really lends
Great
itself to
question,
that
Paz.
part. Yeah, that part of, we've talked about the association, right? Like, what are we doing to surround ourselves with people who are helping us go where we want to go, right? And that part of like, we cannot create something new when we are stuck in the place where we were, right? And then there's that part too of what about when we feel called to go back? Now, not everyone is. Not everyone is. And especially we're talking about some pretty difficult topics right now. Trauma, well, I'm gonna name it. That was not necessarily something you named, but trauma, abuse,
That's
addiction, right? Like a lot of things in there that not everyone is called to go back to.
Yeah.
Not always is it welcome, to your point. Not always is it helpful. And it doesn't necessarily have to be those exact people or those exact scenarios. Sometimes those ones we've tried. You know, we've given that open door and someone's like, yeah, screw you, slams the door. They want to stay there. It is what it is, right? But when we feel a calling to go back for others, and I think that's the part that I really just love about the work that I do. A lot of the work that I do, business advisor, doing a lot of community engagement out in the community. I spend a lot of time in coffee meetings with people going like, how did you get to where you are? Like what, and what I'm always mining for that oftentimes comes out pretty quickly is I would say 95 to 98% of the time, there's something in someone's background that is why they're doing what they're doing. And almost always there is a transformation. Now that is true. And it's very obvious when it's something that's organic, somebody made themselves, right? They developed this product or this service from the scratch, from ground up. It sometimes is less obvious, but it is nonetheless there when you meet a Tamar who did not create this bakery, took it over. So you could say it was not her original creation, but there's 100% that purpose and that story in it. And we're going to dive into just a little bit of where she sees it going, which is where you'll kind of see that unlock. I see that in business structures where it is more structured, where someone has their own business within a bigger business structure, such as real estate, such as insurance. And oftentimes you go, oh, well, you know, you just kind of chose a path to get where you're going. Mine long enough, and you'll hear why they're doing it, right? Like Paz works in insurance. It is deeply personal for him. And I know that because my husband and I sat down with him 2 weeks ago and I'd known about him for a while and we talked and it was the right time. We went, okay, like I need your help. We had some things fall apart and like immediately need some coverage. And he was like right there, has done an awesome job following up. He has access to bigger business structures that he leverages. Thank God. But it's deeply personal to him, right? So I think that part is where I'd love to kind of take us is when we feel this calling to go back for others. When our product or our service is something we personally developed out of our transformation because we're like, I have this thing, I needed it, I will now create it for others and go offer it to them. When we go, I have something that I am now part of, that I now have access to, that I'm excited to offer to others, and here's why. How do we do that? How do we go back for others in a way that's safe and healthy for us, and keep our head in a good space, even when we're going back for the others? So I'd love to kind of transition us that direction, and to do that, I'd love to turn it back to Tamar. If you're open sharing where your kind of your vision is of taking this, and some of the things that you have in mind and on your heart for the future, I'd love to hear just a short version of that, and then we'll launch off into some discussion.
Yeah, I'll try and make it short. When I started the venture to own my own business, and years ago, I thought I started realizing just how incredibly difficult it was, like for even just the catering business, getting the right permits, talking to the right people, whether or not I had a storefront, trying to rent a kitchen, all of this, because I started baking cheesecake bites out of my house. I mean, I baked cheesecakes for my entire life, but I meant for the business, cheesecake bites out of my house. And then we were in between places. And so even in sobriety, I've been homeless. Not anymore, but I was. And so I would bake out of my friends' houses, you know, bake the cookies, bake the cheesecake bites, and I would try them out on people. And I got my permit and I would bake, you know, out of everybody's house. And so, and then I got fined by the health department, even though I had a receipt for this thing. It was a whole big deal. It was just, all of it was just really hard. And I thought, why does it have to be so hard? I feel like when you're down, they just kick you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's just frustrating. But that's when I realized that I was meant to go through those hard things because I can handle it. I'm not going to quit. I know that. I've said before, I'm a sure bet. I'm just going to keep going and figure it out for the people behind me. And that's what my purpose is to help the people coming up behind me that maybe want to change their lives. Maybe it's not addiction that they're trying to recover from. They just want to change their life, but they have this purpose, this drive. Give them a why. Well, what is that why? Maybe they want to start their own business. So I can use the bakery as a platform right? So I've got this business now. I can either employ people in recovery, or I can sit down with people because I can be a mindset coach. I want to be a mindset coach, but I can sit down with people and find out what's your why? What do you want to do? Do you want to start your own business? Do you want to just work for somebody, but you got to find a way to change your life? What are those steps? And so we come up with a package. Maybe it's a business package. Just use the bakery, for example. Maybe they want to start their own bakery. What does that entail? I know what it entails. It's permits, it's licensing. Maybe they don't want a storefront, they want a little pop-up or something. So we put together a package. Well, I'm not just gonna hand it to them, they're gonna get startup money with it. All that is part of the package. But they want to change their life from addiction. So they've got to do put in the sweat equity. They've got to go to counseling. They have to figure out their own program. But these are the things I did that they could do. Go to counseling to fix the trauma as to why they drank or drugged, take financial classes, find a place to live, do the work that it takes to get where you want to be, find your mentors, go out and seek the right books. You sought the drugs, you can seek these things too. But do all that. Maybe it takes you a year and a half, but at the end of that year and a half, now I hand you this business package. It's yours. Do with it what you want. But by that time, they're responsible. They've changed their life. They've got a place to live. That's ideally what's happening. Change their behaviors, change the circle of friends that they're around. All of these things to make them successful. You've given them their why. They have a purpose now. Chances are they're not going to go relapse because they have a reason. They're going to turn around and do the same thing for somebody else. That's where I want to take the bakery. That's where I'm going to take the bakery.
Which just feels like lit up by this.
Yeah. I don't know if you see a fire under me, but it's there.
Tools that you need to succeed.
Yes, and it's not just giving it to these people.
Yeah.
So when you're reaching
making
back
them
for these
human.
people in your past who maybe aren't congruent with where you're going,
Mhm.
I think it's important to give them the tools that they need to succeed.
Teach them to fish.
Yes,
Don't
Yeah.
give them the fish.
exactly. But don't put that weight of them succeeding on yourself.
No,
Because that's
it's
their
not,
burden
yeah.
to bear.
Yeah, exactly. It's not up to you. It's up to them.
I think that story doesn't get told enough. We hear a lot of success stories, but we never hear how most success stories that we hear about, someone took them under their wing at some point and gave them the game. You know what I mean? And I don't think we hear those stories enough. I think there's this perception that there's overnight success. And it's kind of, the light bulb went off. And I think we're getting to that point now where it's a little less disillusioned, where they realize it took some time.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times they think it's like them by themselves tinkering away in their garage, and then they meet somebody and then boop off. It's like there's a lot of massaging that happens in that process. And I think that story needs to be rippled out a lot more effectively, honestly.
Love that word,
Yeah.
rippled out,
Yeah.
right? And that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about when we figure out what was that transformation that we experienced?
Yeah.
What do we not have that we needed? Or what did somebody give us that we're like, oh my God, that's why I'm where I'm at. It was thanks to that one person I met at the grocery store who happened to have a conversation and was like, oh, you need to meet this person who, whatever it was, right? I can point back to my people, like very specifically, who exactly are why I'm doing what I'm doing, right?
Right.
And I think that part of what happens when we get in touch with that part of our story that was the transformation? What was that key? And then how do we go be that for others? And sometimes it's within our business, sometimes it's literally our business product or service, right? Or a nonprofit initiative that we launched. Sometimes it's something totally different. Sometimes it's our side project that we're developing, or sometimes it's something we do personally in mentorship, or just that's something informal in our relationships or whatnot. But what I'd love to hear, as we go into our last few minutes, there's a couple people who've been sitting pretty quiet. And I guarantee you do not have nothing going on in your head just because you've been quiet. So I'd love to just ask, in that topic, of what has been your transformation, or what is it that you're reaching back to others, or if there was just something that resonated with you in what Tamar shared that, sparked something that you want to share. I'd love to hear from you.
I think for me, there's a lot. But I think one of the things that really keeps sticking out to me is the idea of mentorship. And then coupled with that, what we're talking about right now is really giving people the tools. And I love that you brought that up, Tamar, with what I do with my coaching. There have been clients along the way that they say, yeah, I'm all in. And then they jump ship.
Yeah.
And it's really quick sometimes. And then sometimes it's, just they trickle out, right? And then there's those that they're like, I'm all in and teach me more. And when they're like that, it really lights a fire
Yeah.
in me. And that's how I was as a client, and I still am as a client. I have a coach. I still meet with them every Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have him, I don't know where I would be in my health journey. It would not look really good. Because I was in bed, sick for years, and just, I didn't have a life at that time. And that's what we do. All of us do, is we give people those tools to be like, hey, you can do this too. And when they get that spark and they just start running, it is such a beautiful thing to see them actually use the tools in their life to propel themselves forward in what they love to do. And it's such a beautiful thing. And I love what you're doing. I really, really love that. And I shared with you, my parents were deep in it.
Yeah.
Drugs and alcohol and a lot of crazy stuff. And I witnessed that for a lot of my life. And it was really hard. And the trauma is crazy. It's crazy trauma. But someone believed in them. And that's what changed for them, is someone believed in them. They saw beyond the drugs and alcohol and what they were doing with us kids, and they believed in them. And that's what we gotta do, is we gotta believe in people.
I would share, rich conversation, there seems to be a common theme of redemption, restoration, and just so encouraging. I think we all have self-limiting beliefs from various trials, but found, there's a purpose in the pain. And I think when we can find a way to break through those self-limiting beliefs, then we're free to be able to be exercising the gifts, our God-given gifts that we all have, and so that we can collaborate with one another, build each other up, encourage each other, and reflect those gifts to the world, because all those challenges we all seem to experience, and it's all meant for a greater good, so we can actually be encouraged to see that in each other. It helps us all rise above, and it's just great to be here and just be a part of this. So thank you.
Glad to join us.
I know that we're a bit over time right now, but I would like to finish off really quick. When you don't have somebody to go to and like finish something or start something with them, what are you doing? Like, and just think about this, don't answer, so we're over time. What are you doing by yourself to get to that goal? And like, what is your process?
Cool. I love that. Well, I will wrap us up and turn it over to Jonathan. Just wanted to start by saying, Tamar, thank you so much for saying yes. For being willing. Thanks for coming. And thank you to everyone for your participation, the comments, the thoughts, the reflection, the great questions. And for those who still did not get a chance to speak, don't worry, I will find you.
Sure you will.
Yeah, so thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Tamar. Thank you, Todd and Lump for lunch, and thank you, Dryfly. Next week, we have Stephanie Courtney, which if you don't know who she is, look her up. I'm so excited. It's gonna be amazing. So come back again next week. Everybody that participated, everybody that just was a listening ear, thank you for being here. Thank you for the online audience for jumping in, and we will see everybody here next week.